Yo, welcome back everybody. This video we're going to be talking about public and private. These are both examples of access modifiers. It basically determines how or who can access a particular thing. Monday.com is your visual project management solution. This is the tool that allows you to see where every task or project stands with a single glance. With a fully customizable interface, you can create the exact workflow that you need for you and your team to get stuff done. Monday.com is available on mobile and integrates well with some of the most popular tools out there, so get your life in order by giving it a try for free. Link in the description. So what we've talked about so far is fields and properties, and basically how the field can be public or it can be private. So when we create a field that is public, or if we create a public property, that is accessible when we are working with an object. So let's say we already created a person class. Don't worry about how we did that or the code for that. Let's just talk about when we create a new person. It might look like this. So we say person, give it an identifier, new person. We just called it me, so now you can access it like so. Me dot name, which would allow us to assign a value to the name property, such as Caleb. Well, this here is public. All right, so when we access a member of an object after the dot, it's public. That's how I have access to it. If it was private, when we would put that dot, we would get nothing from IntelliSense, and if we actually typed it out ourselves, we would get a compiling error. So if public allows us to use it, why would we ever want to use private? Does it actually have a purpose? Well, sometimes when we're designing the class, we want to be able to store information for internal use, so maybe there's something going on behind the scenes inside of this object, and we're using a private field to store that information. So that might seem a little confusing, but maybe think of it like this. If we have an object, we might have a public property that you can access from the outside, like .name. But we can also have private on the inside. So these you cannot access from the outside. But the things that are public sometimes can, so we can kind of create this interface to interact with these private things. So we can access them from different methods or from properties and so forth. So they're not entirely useless, it's just we can't access them using the dot operator. So continuing from the previous video where we talked about properties, we'll often have a property which is public, and this will access a private field. So let's just say name is a public property. This property will go and set the value of this field to Caleb. So it's basically gating the access to the private stuff. Because, we don't just want to expose our private members to the entire world. They're private for a reason, right? So you want to understand the difference between public and private because you don't want to be creating immodest classes where everything is public. So when we create something that's private, we can use that inside of the class definition. So if we have a class person, and this is in the definition, we'll often put this in another file. Anything that's private can be accessed within these curly braces. That means if we define properties in here, or if we define methods, which we'll be talking about in the next video, foreshadowing, these can access private stuff. So that means we can use the private stuff to store information that might be used throughout these properties and methods, but we don't necessarily want to expose it to the entire world. And when we instantiate this person, that private stuff is still going to be part of the objects, just not publicly accessible. So in this situation, let's just say we had a private variable and it was integer stuff. Well, each object is going to get an integer stuff field. You're just not going to be able to say me.stuff or user.stuff or whatever you name the object. So hopefully that's clear. To conclude, because there's a lot of just scattered information, honestly, private is only accessible within the class curly braces and can be used to store information that might be used for some purpose. Public, on the other hand, is accessible from the object using the dot operator outside of the class definition. So inside of the main method or some other method, we can create an instance of this class and say object name dot public member, whatever the public member may be. That's your introduction to public and private. The next video, we're gonna be talking about methods, which I think will be the last conceptual video before we start typing stuff out on the computer. So go check that out. I'll see you then, and be sure to subscribe.